Hi, everyone here at DC News Now, and we have a guest with us. We have Harry Dunn, a retired U.S. Capitol Police officer, and you are now running for Maryland's 5th Congressional District. Harry, thank you so much for being here with us.
Glad to be here with you. And I must say that I am not retired. I resigned. A lot of people are like, what's the difference? A full pension. When I
Oh.
quit to run I quit the Capitol Police after over 15 years of service. I guess forfeited, if you will, my full pension. Um, After you need 20 plus years in the government to receive a full pension.
That's a
But
big
that's
deal.
just
That's
how
a
important.
lot of money.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But that's just how important the work that I'm doing now is to me.
Okay, let's get started with the fact that you resigned after 15 years with the U.S. Capitol Police on the day of January 6th, 2021. Was that a regular shift for you at the Capitol?
Well, depending on what you call regular. So we at the Capitol Police, like in my 15 years, and even beyond, we deal with protest day to day, whether it's single person demonstrations, 20 people, or thousands of people, or the Million Man March inaugurations. So we've been in situations where, excuse me, that there are several people there, and we're responsible for crowd control, if you will, protecting members of Congress, and at the same time letting people exercise their First Amendment rights to be able to protest, especially their members of Congress. So when you say, is it a normal day? I mean, January 6th has happened, for years now without
Mm.
people knowing that it was a special event.
Yeah,
That
it was just
I
one
mean,
day that was kind of this official, we're going to just sign off on the election, and
yeah, the
nobody ever paid
certification of the
attention
election,
to it.
absolutely. Yeah, the certification of the election that took place. This, when Donald Trump sent a mob to attack the Capitol Police, that wasn't the first January 6th. January 6th have been happening for years. I guess since the beginning of the Electoral College certification, that has always happened.
Can you tell me, at that moment, so this day, it was a pretty nice day out there. I remember just kind of watching. We knew that there were going to be rallies and stuff like that. Where were you when you started realizing that the crowd energy was shifting and it just did not feel like the same kind of vibe that you're used to
Yeah.
in a large demonstration or protest or rally?
Well, looking back on it, it should have been obvious from the start. As you remember, January 6th, 2021, we were in COVID, and in the DC area, everybody was remote. The people were working from home, schools were virtual. So getting into work, if you had to one of those people that had to go into work even during COVID, traffic was a breeze. You were driving down. I was driving down North Capitol Street, no people in the streets, and it was just, you got to sleep in a little bit because your commute didn't take as long. But driving down North Capitol Street 6 in the morning, that day, I mean, there were people out and about, like protesting. Well, not protesting, just wandering around. People had American flags, waving them around, and as the day went on, more and more people started filtering to the Capitol. But shortly after, I guess the thing that actually made me say this is really, really, really bad is when they discovered the pipe bombs that were placed at the DNC and the RNC, respectively. And the crowds just continued to swell. There was radio traffic on the radios where, whether it would be DC police or, hey, heads up, Capitol Police, you got a group of 500 people headed to you from the mall. And then maybe Amtrak police would say, hey, a group of 300 is headed your way from Union Station. And then, I mean, it was just, call after call of large groups headed towards the Capitol. And that coinciding with the announcement of the pipe bombs made me realize, hey, this is actually really, really bad, and we're not prepared for what's about to happen here.
And then it really devolved. I mean, the minute you started seeing people kind of breach those fencing
Sure.
barriers that were out there and climbing and scaling the walls, um, and chanting, just really
Yeah.
kind of disturbing messages. Where were you when you started to feel like this is not going to be okay?
Yeah, so I was posted on the east side of the Capitol, That's the side that is in between the Supreme Court and the Library of Congress. As you know, the large crowds and the violence came from the West side, which is the mall where the ellipse is, where Donald Trump gave his speech, his rallying speech, if you will, and told people to go to the Capitol and fight like hell. So they were coming from there. So as we heard the calls on the radio, I decided to take off and head to the West side because that's where the largest crowd or group of protesters was coming from. So I ran around to the West side. And at that time, we were 14, 16 days away from inauguration. So the platform, for anybody that knows, the platform where the inauguration was already being built, the west side of the Capitol gets closed off around August to start that
Mm.
construction every 4 years of to build that stage. So the Capitol was already closed off, or at least the west side of it was. Um, so going around there, yes, they did breach those fences, and I positioned myself. I was armed with a rifle or a long gun, so I positioned myself in a position of advantage where I had an overwatch, where I wasn't directly in the crowd fighting hand to hand combat with the rioters that day.
Did you get to a point though when they were arriving to where you are, and either putting you in a position where you felt like you had to respond, and your response is a rifle at this point, or that you were going to have to fight off other people? Like, what point was that happening?
Sure. I mean, a lot of people have oft asked the question. I mean, everywhere I go, why didn't y'all just open fire on them? Um, Contrary to popular belief or conspiracy belief, there were no orders to given to us to say, "Hey, don't fire." Law enforcement is charged with the task of determining when lethal force should be used, and every single person, no matter what the circumstance, each officer, when they do it, will have to answer and say why they did what they did. So I believe in those situations, specifically with me, as you see people fighting or punching, we didn't think that in situations at that moment calls for deadly force or shooting if somebody's punching. Now there were some circumstances where um, lethal force could have been used, and it was used in one case. But then you have to worry about if you miss that shot, you're shooting in a crowd of
Mm.
50, 60, hundred thousands of people. You want to make sure that you hit that right, the person that I guess is warranted to be shot. But the conversations that I had that actually did turn physical only happened when they breached the Capitol and they were inside the Capitol at that time.
Okay, and so I don't know if people can appreciate, but I read your bio. You're like 6'7", a former
6'7".
4-year starter, offensive lineman for James Madison. You're a big guy.
Yeah, I've heard that before. I've heard once or twice I'm a big guy.
Were you scared?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like this wasn't just about being in a fight, this was about we didn't know it. I mean, they had already proven that they were there for a war, for a battle. I mean, they had tactical vest on with armor plates, body proof, bulletproof vest on. They had pepper spray. They had gas masks. So they knew that they were getting into some resistance. And, size doesn't matter. Bullets don't care how big or how small you are. They can definitely do damage. So absolutely, I was scared. But the survival, a lot of people have credited us with, saving democracy and saving the day. To be very candid with you, it was just about getting home to our loved ones that day and make sure that all of our coworkers, the people to the left of us, to the right of us, got home to their families. And now, saving and preserving democracy as a byproduct, that's a, pretty good byproduct of something.
And what about that moment was it that made you think, okay, looking back, that's when I knew I needed to do something, that it was important enough to give up my pension,
Yeah.
give up my benefits, and to run for office?
Well, people don't realize I spent almost 3 years on the Capitol Police after January 6th. And I haven't talked about this a lot, but while I was on the force after January 6th, I got suspended about 4 or 5 different occasions, whether it was giving an unauthorized press conference or conduct unbecoming due to statements that I was making, whether that would be directed to members of Congress, Republicans who eventually caved to you to be candid, they caved and went back to support Donald Trump, and they wouldn't condemn the attacks, or whether it be Republican members of Congress voting against to give us recognition, whether it would be putting up the plaque or giving us the Congressional Gold Medal, or just public comments they were making. I got to the point where that led to me to when I actually resigned was when a opening for a seat in Congress actually happened, and I said, you know what, I have been fighting for accountability since January 7th, 2021, and there actually came an opportunity for me to have a seat at the table in Congress, which is why I said, you know what, I have to do something. I feel like I did everything that I could do as a police officer. Now let's move to the next fight, and let's take it to Congress.
You were kind of a rabble rouser then. I mean, they kind of didn't want you to speak out, to have an opinion so strongly. So you felt like you needed to run for office. First, it
Well, to
was
be but
yeah,
to be fair to the department, there were rules. They had rules
yeah,
about
okay,
not giving press conferences or not doing this. So I'm not saying that they were targeting me. I broke rules.
mm,
As John Lewis would say, I got in good trouble, and it was worth it. So I'm not making myself to be a victim of, hey, they were targeting me because I was speaking out. No, I broke the rules. I was aware of what I was doing. But I was just trying to, and still trying actually, to fight for accountability for that day, because I mean it's 5.5 years later, and we're still talking about January 6th. When in your history of covering the news has a story 5.5 years later been front page breaking news every time something happens about it?
yeah, no, not often. Usually only on anniversaries and
Yeah.
yeah, follow ups and investigations. So you're going to run to a seat that's held by the longest Democratic representative, Steny Hoyer, whose accomplishments are just staggering. But one of the most key pieces of legislation that he was able to not only co-sponsor, but also shepherd in was the Americans with Disabilities Act. When you look back, what will be your pinnacle of, you know what, my daughter Daphne is going to be like Daddy did that?
Yeah. I honestly, I believe that I've already accomplished that.
Mm.
And that's especially in this climate right now where, I get lauded as being a hero or this amazing patriot, if you will. I don't believe that anything that I'm doing is special. I get why people say that it is because there's so few people doing it and so many people needed to be doing it. I don't need a title in front of my name or initials after my name to just stand up to do what's right. And
But what is
standing
that
up,
piece of legislation going to be? You want to be a lawmaker for Maryland's
sure,
5th. What
sure.
will it be? What will be that keystone?
I guess the keystones of my campaign are accountability and affordability. And bringing accountability to Donald Trump and this administration is one of the biggest things that I aim to do. And with regards to affordability, I believe that all roads lead back to Donald Trump in this corrupt administration, because while him and his buddies, the billionaire, they're getting richer. And whether you're a Donald Trump supporter or not, your life is not getting better while him and his billionaire friends are getting better. And the Republicans in Congress are enabling him. So being able to, one, bring order and normalcy, if you will, back to Congress. When we get back to the times where we can work together, Republicans and Democrats, to make people's lives better, that will be my accomplishment.
But what will the affordability aspect be? You know, does it look like universal child care? Does it look
Okay,
like
specific
health care
legislation.
and advancing in that? Does it look like taxing billionaires more?
Sure.
Like, what does that look like to you?
All of the above. But one of the things, I guess, the key pieces of legislation that I absolutely want to get on day one is the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. I mean, we've seen these courts right now just take a machete to the Voting Rights Act and the civil rights, the voting of Black people, colored people, people of color. It's just really unfortunate because we feel it that they're cheating. That's their way that they win, by silencing marginalized people. But how do we win? How do we get back to what we want to do? Is passing the John Lewis Voting Rights Act and also the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. Because as a former police officer, I do believe that there's problems within law enforcement, but I also believe that law enforcement needs to exist. the crazy thing about the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, I guarantee you that if you change the name without any legislation, without changing any key points, you just change the name of the bill to the Donald Trump Justice and Policing Act, it will pass. Republicans will absolutely support it because everything in that legislation is common sense police reform.
If you get into office, would you submit a bill, co-sponsor it, just call it, just change? The only thing is the Donald Trump bill as opposed to George Floyd. Would you be willing to do that to get that passed?
I initially say absolutely not. I don't want to do anything in the world to honor Donald Trump. Zero, zero. However, I can set aside my pride and my bias if it means saving others people's lives in the name of police reform.
Okay. I had two questions that I had asked people who live in your presumed district what their
Sure.
big concerns are. And one was the dangerous roads. This is so very
Yeah.
family oriented. She was just saying Maryland 210 State Highway
Uh,
runs through your district. There have been, I think the last estimate was 47 deadly crashes since 2007. I know that it is one of those local but federal because it's a state road. What
sure.
could you do, especially at a point when the gas tax has not been raised since I think '93? The last time we've been talking about this, the president wants to suspend it for now. So we don't even have the funding to kind of
Sure.
increase any type of road construction, rehabilitation, or visibility elements. So what would that look like for you?
Yeah, so just from a law enforcement standpoint, I've traveled 210, several times. One, it's dark. It's very dark down there on nights. And also, yeah, they have a few speed cameras up, but I don't often see police presence out on those roads when they know that they're bad. The county executive, Aisha Braveboy, and they're talking about targeting 210. It's not 210. One of the things that they're targeting is these illegal races and things like that, and they put a lot of enforcement there. I wish they'd do the same thing with these highways where they have, I won't say, yes, the illegal races, but putting more saturating areas. When I was a police officer, when we saw upticks in whether it be illegal activity or just things that raised just the hair on your neck to just say gave you a bad feeling, we would saturate areas with law enforcement at the moment because that's how you do it. You have to have people that they're breaking laws and we need to hold them accountable. But they're not going to do anything without any police presence out there. A few speed cameras, people going to slow down a few feet before the speed camera and then they're going to take off right afterwards. But if you have law enforcement out there present, high visibility, I think that's a big deterrent also. But
Yeah.
also increase the penalties too. Not just hey, do you know why I stopped you? You're going to slow it down, but actually hold the people accountable. We have laws on the book. The problem is they're not being enforced too often.
It sounds a little expensive though, because if you're trying to, infiltrate and make sure the crime and violent crime is down, that's going to divert your resources
Sure.
to these roads, which not everyone will see. Yes, it's dangerous. Yes, it's bad, but is it as bad, or is that where our resources need to be? So it's tough, I would say.
Well, I believe that public safety is worth investing in.
Hmm.
And yes, it is. But if we saving lives, I believe that it's worth it. But if we're doing it in a irresponsible manner, like, hey, let's change out some of these speed cameras for actual officers, or let's use this revenue that's going in. But also it works with collaborating with our partners. Find out what are the most important things. What are people seeing? What does the data tell us? Not just what we think.
All right, let's talk about data centers, which is just
Yeah.
blowing up everywhere. They're not. I don't believe there's one specifically in your district, but there was just a report that
Well,
came out.
Southern Maryland, absolutely. Whether it be Calvert or St. Mary's,
Okay,
what they want to do down there to put them coming,
right,
absolutely.
right, non-existing, but the argument is we need to bring them in. It's going to bring in all this revenue for our local communities. But the last report we just got yesterday, I believe, said that Maryland was the state with the highest increase in power bills from last year to this year, upwards of 90%. It was an 89% increase from last year to this year. It's costing families so much money. And they're feeling really frustrated by these data centers.
Yeah.
Where do you stand with them?
Absolutely not. I am not for them. Point blank, period, full stop. I believe that yes, like you said, the tax, I mean, excuse me, the utility costs that are going up, they should not. And also, isn't it interesting that you have AI companies investing in this particular race right now? Why? Because there are candidates out there that do support them, whether what they say publicly, but why would they be investing? Why would an AI company be investing in a candidate if they don't believe that there's an opportunity to sway that person? I don't take any special interest money, whether it be AI or crypto or APAC or any of that. I don't do any of that. So I'm responsible and answer to the people, and the people have spoken and said that they are against data centers. Whether now, listen, I know there are opportunities, sure, and if they can prove that there are ways to implement them, I understand that's the future. Sure, I absolutely am, but never, no way on the backs of the citizens of the Fifth Congressional District will they take the brunt of bringing data centers here. Absolutely not. I don't support that. And also, look at what's happening in Northern Virginia right now. They're having buyer's remorse right now, and their people are fed up, people are frustrated, and people don't want them. And that's where I'm at. I am with the people.
Because initially it was we were going to give you tax incentives to come because it was supposed to bring in all of this revenue. And so you believe that all of these states, Virginia being the number one
Sure.
in the country for data centers, is regretting all of those decisions?
Yeah, but and also like you just said, when you said they were going to give you tax incentives, who is they?
Yeah, the
The
city,
elected
the
official,
county.
the elected officials that we have now. So why would we want to elevate people in those positions to say, hey, they're going to vote against or they're going to act in the interest that's not in the interest of the people, but in the interest of these special corporations or these data center companies? No, we're going to act in the interest of the people and what they want. And that's what it's all about. You talk about what the people want, not what I want. And that's what's the difference with so many people and so many other candidates in this race. People depend on their donors to their campaigns. Who are the biggest contributors to some of their campaigns? It's some of these special interest groups. And how can we count on them not having the interests of the people of the Fifth Congressional District and not the interest of these data centers or whatever the special interest may be?
What do you say to critics who question kind of where your, I guess, loyalty lies? If first you ran for the third district, now you're running for the fifth district, and you actually live in the eighth district.
Yeah.
Um, what do you say to that?
I am determined to do whatever I can to hold this administration accountable. Now, in Maryland, I've had the opportunity to travel across the entire country, and I've seen some other state delegations, and I believe Maryland has one of the best ones. So, I don't see worlds where it makes sense to go primary a candidate. Each of the times that I ran, there were open seats, which really doesn't happen too often in Maryland. I mean, the seat
Hmm.
that I'm running for now is Steny Hoyer held it for over 45 years. So open seats don't. Now there is an open seat, and that created an opportunity, which makes sense. I'm born and raised in the Fifth Congressional District. I'm from Clinton. I went to Saratsville High School. Go Hornets! My family still lives there, and I'm committed to moving back. I just got. I went when I living in the eighth now. I went through a divorce, and I have my. I went through a bankruptcy to save my house from being foreclosed on. Normal stuff that Americans go through, that people go through. And now that I am completed with my bankruptcy, I could sell my house and move back home now, which I plan on doing.
That's really interesting because you're talking about all of these very humble aspects about your life that make you very much like everybody at home, right? Born and
Well, that's
raised
what I
in
am. I'm a normal person.
Yeah, born and raised Prince George's County. Your father is an Air Force veteran. You are admittedly having to go through bankruptcy, which so many families have to deal with.
Sure.
What is it that is your main message to those who are listening in the 5th Congressional District of why it is important to elevate someone like you, to send you to Capitol Hill? Why
Well,
is
because
you, why are you
yeah,
the one?
yeah. In this moment, I am the one. Now, listen, if these were normal times, then sure, I'm not the one. I probably am not the one. I'm probably still working at the Capitol, But January 6th changed my whole life. And it's been always, my life has just been about doing what's right or trying to do what's right, acknowledging what's wrong and trying to fix those problems. And in this moment, so many people are struggling, and everybody says that they are a fighter, or excuse me, elected, or people want to be elected, or saying, I'm a fighter. I have proven that time and time again. In fact, I filed a lawsuit about 2 weeks ago against Donald Trump when he announced that he was going to do this slush fund. And you know what happened? I won. Donald Trump is now backing off of that. And I also have another lawsuit against the Department of Justice for failing to acknowledge the police officers with the January 6th plaque. I am doing these things as citizen Harry Dunn, still trying to figure out how to make it, knowing that we don't have the luxury of sitting back. Look, I would have loved to donate my $50 or put a yard sign in my yard and support my favorite candidate. However, I don't see anybody else right now in this race that has the drive, the desire, and it's personal for me. Donald Trump tried to kill me, plain and simple. And it's very personal to me that we hold him accountable and get this country back on track, because so many people are suffering, me included. My health care went up $1,300 over the year. My utility bills are going up. And why just be mad and just type on Twitter fingers, if you will, and type and just say, I'm mad, this is wrong, this is wrong. Let's do something about it.
You think that Donald Trump, the president, tried to kill you that day?
On January 6th, he sent a mob to attack me and my coworkers who were there to do anything they could to stop the certification of the election. Brian Sicknick died the day after January 6th. Five other co-officers died via suicide, lost their life to suicide because of January 6th. It's just by the grace of God that I'm still here alive right now. Well, many of us that worked that day, it could have been any of us. So and he doesn't even acknowledge as what happened as bad. So that January 6th changed the whole trajectory of my life, about my mission in life right now. I've always had the same values and morals that were instilled in me as a young kid, whether it be my mother and my father, or just my community. Just growing up in Clinton, and community raised me, and it taught me, hey, we're there for each other, and we're going to stand up when things are wrong. We're going to say something about it.
All right. Harry Dunn, this has been a really intriguing conversation, and I wish you all the best of luck as you continue your campaign in the primary and then off to the generals.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. You take care.
You too.